And I just want to bring you some breaking news from Iraq, and that's that within the past few hours, Iraqi media says there's been another airstrike, this time targeting a convoy of vehicles belonging to an Iranian-backed militia. Well, just to get a few more details on this, Rich Presson is with me here in the studio. What more do we know about this?
Well, very little, to be honest, very little verified information out there, Lewis. This information is coming from Iraqi state media, and it says that a US airstrike targeted a convoy of vehicles belonging to a group known as the Popular Mobilization Force. Now, that's an umbrella group of Iranian-backed militia, and that happened on the Taji Road just north of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. As I said, very limited information to go on which is verified. Reports are that this happened 12 minutes past 1 in the morning local time, and that 6 people were killed.
Hello, welcome to BBC News. Iran has vowed severe revenge against the United States after the killing of Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. He was blown up outside Baghdad airport in the early hours of Friday morning on the orders of President Trump. US officials say the general had been plotting to kill Americans in the region. Iranian leaders have called the killing an act of international terrorism. The Pentagon is sending an extra 3,500 troops to the region. Here's our Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen.
This was the moment that the US assassinated Qasem Soleimani and pushed the Middle East into a new year and new decade of uncertainty and more danger. The pictures came from a TV station controlled by Iran. The attack from a missile fired from a drone hit his motorcade as he was being driven out of Baghdad airport. The US and Iran were already fighting a war in the shadows. Neither side wants uncontrolled escalation, but the chances of miscalculation and a lurch into a bigger war have increased. Qasem Soleimani was no ordinary foe. For a generation, he was probably America's most capable enemy. His death delivers a blow to the heart of the Iranian regime. For many years, Soleimani built up Iran's power outside its borders and made it, and himself, a major player in Iraq, Syria and Lebanon. He was a talisman for Iranian hardliners who've been rocked to their core. They'll want to get even, perhaps more than that. Last Sunday, American airstrikes killed 25 members of Kataib Hezbollah, an Iraqi militia armed and trained by Soleimani's Quds organization, after an American contractor was killed in a militia attack. The militiamen, undoubtedly on Soleimani's orders, marched on the US embassy in Baghdad and attacked its perimeter. The militias he created were a vital part of the fight against the jihadists of Islamic State. But they're also one way that Iran projects power abroad. The huge American compound is a fortress and it wasn't breached, but the attacks goaded and threatened the Trump administration. The Americans are rushing reinforcements to the Middle East, 3,750 so far. US civilians told by their government to get out as soon as they can. But President Trump wanted to press home an American advantage.
His reign of terror is over. Soleimani has been perpetrating acts of terror to destabilize the Middle East for the last 20 years. What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago. We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war.
In Baghdad, some Iraqis celebrated the killing. For weeks, anti-government demonstrators have been demanding an end to Iranian influence in Iraq. In Tehran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, visited Qasem Soleimani's widow. He said severe revenge awaits the criminals. Iranian hardliners are devastated. The spokesman for Soleimani's Republican Guard Corps was highly emotional in a TV interview. So were regime supporters on the streets. Qasem Soleimani was their hero at a time when they see themselves surrounded by enemies. Iran was already under severe pressure from US sanctions. President Trump might be gambling that he's so weakened Iran that it will rage but not hurt the US badly. That assumption could be dangerous and wrong. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News.
A short time ago, Iran's foreign minister has condemned the killing of General Soleimani. Speaking to a Persian TV channel, Mohammad Sharif said his country will respond to the attack.
جمهوری اسلامی این حق قانونی رو داره که هر زمان و به هر شکلی که خودش صلاح بدونه.
Iran has the right to retaliate in whatever way it wants to, and whenever it feels like it is the right time. We will not be blackmailed by the Americans. We will act whenever and however our leadership wants.
So, Iran is vowing to avenge General Soleimani's death. What kind of retaliation could there be? Well, here's our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette.
Well, Iran has many ways and many means to strike back, and judging by its past military operations, its response will be carefully calibrated. It will want to be seen to reply in equal measure to what it has described as a declaration of war, but it wants to avoid a direct military confrontation with the United States, which it knows could push this region into an ever more unpredictable and deadly escalation. So its next move could possibly, through some of its many proxies across this region, possibly in Iraq, where there are US forces, US targets, where I am now in Afghanistan, where US forces are also based. But given Iran's vast intelligence network, it could also take place in another corner of the world, far from Iran's borders. But Iran will want to have an operation which shocks and surprises at a time of its own choosing, which stops short of an all-out war. But the repercussions of this major turning point aren't a question of days, weeks, or even months. This will play out across this region for many years.
Lise Doucette with her analysis there. Well, since confirming the attack, the US has stressed that General Soleimani dead, with him dead, American lives are safer. Well, I spoke to a professor of Middle East Studies, Narges Bajoli, and asked her whether she thinks that's the case.
No, most definitely not.
And why is that?
I mean, right now, with this action, the United States killed one of Iran's most powerful military figures in the country, and that means, along with the deputy of one of Iraq's most powerful military or paramilitary groups in the region. And so that means that American troops and American personnel in the region will be potential targets.
But this is a huge symbolic figure, both in Iran and around the world. And the Trump administration will feel that by removing this threat, they have done their job.
But symbolism goes both ways. Symbolism also can prove that it can make people move to action within Iran and within the region in order to revenge and to have vengeance for Soleimani's killing.
So what do you think happens next?
It's really difficult to tell because some of the forces that are allied to Iran could try to have attacks on their own without necessarily the approval of Iran. It's going to be difficult to figure out what will happen at that point. If that happens first, Iran will probably take its time to respond to an action like this, and it will be patient in responding and try to make it a large response, but one that will not have direct repercussions for the homeland within Iran itself. So it's very difficult to tell what the short-term consequences of this are going to be, but the long-term consequences are going to be more violence in the region.
So more violence in the region. Just give us an idea of the power structures here. He was obviously a key figure. Now he's gone. What kind of impact does that have on things like decision-making, how things are organised and what happens?
One thing that I think is that folks misunderstand when it comes to the Revolutionary Guard and Iran's decision-making structure in general in Iran is that the Revolutionary Guard sort of functions much more on an ad hoc leadership structure that goes back to its foundings in the fights of the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. So in the war of the 1980s, Iran had to fight an asymmetrical war against Iraq, which was supported by the United States and Western powers at the time. That fighting an asymmetrical warfare, which which since then Iran and the Revolutionary Guard have perfected, has meant that they are very well versed in having a leadership structure that relies on many groups of men to make decisions, not just one at the top, such as Soleimani. So him being gone is a blow to Iran. However, he was not the only one that had relationships with these armed Shia groups in Lebanon and Iraq and other places in the region. And he's not the only one who is able to do strategic and military actions in those areas either.
That was Narges Bajoli there. And I just want to bring you some breaking news from Iraq. And that's that within the past few hours, Iraqi media says there's been another airstrike, at this time targeting a convoy of vehicles belonging to an Iranian-backed militia. Well, just to get a few more details on this, Rich Preston is with me here in the studio. What more do we know about this?
Well, very little, to be honest, very little verified information out there, Lewis. This information is coming from Iraqi state media, and it says that a US airstrike targeted a convoy of vehicles belonging to a group known as the Popular Mobilization Force. Now, that's an umbrella group of Iranian-backed militia, and that happened on the Taji Road just north of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. As I said, very limited information to go on which is verified. Reports are that this happened 12 minutes past 1 in the morning local time, and that 6 people were killed. There have been some names put out there, but as I say, nothing that we can confirm as yet. We are watching.
OK, Rich, I know you'll be keeping across that and bringing us any more details as we get them. For the moment, thank you.